us in all these slides and helping and serving us the froster. Okay. So let's talk about the first practical issue, and it's the possibility of someone installing a ghost user in the SAP system. And it's going not to be as happy as that one. So before talking about this, if you're not used to the SAP world, you should get some basic concepts. The first thing you should know is that you as a user, connect to your SAP system through a special program that is called SAP GUI. Okay? It's the SAP client to connect to the server. In order to connect, you have to specify access credentials. So you have to specify which client is. It's a number that is a logical independent unit in the system. But for this, you can see it as just a number that you have to specify. Then you have to specify your username and your password. Okay? So then when you log in, the system will check if your password is the same one as in the user master table. And if it's OK, you are granted access. So then you just start using transactions and making business processes. The problem is that there is something called downwards compatibility in SAP systems, because you may have a complex landscape composed of really new systems, but you can have some legacy SAP versions. So we're going to see what it means from the security point of view. Along history, SAP has implemented several password hashing mechanisms. Okay? So they started with a really weak, 8 characters long, case-insensitive MD5 password hashing mechanism. And now the most modern versions are running a 40-character long, case-sensitive, and based on SHA-1. Okay? So it's much stronger. The problem is that when a weak system, when an old system that doesn't support the newer hashing mechanisms wants to integrate, wants to connect with a new system, integration will fail because he doesn't understand new hashing mechanisms. So integration fails, you cannot connect your systems, and your business fails. So what SAP did, the workaround to be able to keep on the system the business running, is that the user master, the record for each user in the database will contain the downwards compatible hashes as well as the strong one. Okay? So this means that there is more than one password hash per user. This by itself introduces some different attacks that you can check it in. You can download it from free from our website. It's a publication that I did about this, but that's a different story. So I told you that each user is going to be containing 2 password hashes. So when you type in your password in the login screen, which password hash the system use for comparison? This is controlled through a profile parameter, yes, a configuration of the SAP instance called login password downwards compatibility. So this parameter can have one of these 3 values. Value number 0, that means that there is no downwards compatibility, so no weak hashes are generated. This is actually a secure setting that you should use if you are not integrating with all systems. The default value, number 1, that means that downward compatibility is enabled. And weak hashes are generated but are not evaluated. Okay, so they're just only using some internal interfaces. Value number 2 is that if the password you type to log into a system, when you type in your password, it will check it against the new and the strong hash. If it fails, it will check it against the old hash. Okay? This is used to detect compatibility problems, but the system will log this and deny the access. It will just let you know that there is a compatibility problem. But just reading at the documentation, I realized that there was 2 other values that this parameter could have, and are these ones. Value number 3 and value number 4. Value number 3 is pretty much the same as 2, so it means that your password is checked against the strong one, and if it fails, it's checked against the old one, but with this slight difference that if the second check matches, if the second check works, the logon is granted as successful. And this is registered in the system log. And don't ask me why 4 is there, but because it's the same as 3, but no system log entry is written at all. Okay? So now we're going to see how this ties together. To make things a bit worse from a security point of view in practice, is that in order to change parameter values in SAP, you need to, there are two types. There are static and dynamics. Static, you need to restart the server. Dynamics, they just take place. This parameter is dynamic, so it means that you can change it without restarting the server. Okay? So let's see how this gets into a problem. So I'm going to, this is SAP GUI, the SAP GUI interface. So I'm going to be like Menem now. I'm going to have a login to the system with the SAP star user. Let me make it bigger. The SAP star user, that is like a super user, so I have already control of the system. And I log in with the password that I know of the system. So what the attacker will do is to go to the SC16 transaction that allows him to access database table. So the user master table, the password hashes are stored in this table, USR02. So I'm going to show you that here you see that you have all the users in this client, and here you have the password hash. Okay? So we're going to go into this record, the SAP star record. And you see that here is the password hash, but if you go down, there is the other password hash. Okay, so this is the strong hash, the SHA-1 hash, and this is the old weak hash. So what we're going to take advantage here as an attacker is to enter, if you see, I cannot type here, I cannot modify this value. Okay? So what the attacker could do is to enter a special mode in SAP system that is called debug mode. It's done executing a /h. So it says here in the bottom says debug is switching on. And he will just press enter on a field. And this kind of attack is, not the entering debugging mode and modifying database table through the SAP system has been known for a long time. I could also be doing this directly through the database, but I'm trying to show you that this can be done through the SAP system itself. So here you see that this is ABAP code, the ABAP code that processes that information. So here you see that there's a variable called name code. So let's see what it has. Code is equal to show. What we can say is that, okay, no, you are not show, you are edit. Okay, so I think that now, sorry. I have to, I just changed the variable to edit, and I let the execution to continue. So now you can see that I can modify this field. So I'm modifying the old hash of the user. And I'm going to, I have a generated hash for a password ghost1. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and put it here. So I save this. And here it says that the database record was successfully created. So the attacker goes back. And the next thing, if you remember what we are doing, the next thing, that he has to do is to modify this parameter. Okay? And he will modify it to value 4, that is the most stealth mode. So he goes to the transaction to modify profile parameters. Login, password. And here you see that it's in value number 1, so he will change it for number 4. He save the changes. It will say that it's dynamic, so you lose it when you restart the system. Okay, let's give it a couple of seconds. Okay, so yeah, it's going to be dynamic. So the parameter is changed. So this is the end of the attack. So let's see what happens here. Now the attacker leaves the system. So the SAP administrator connects to his system, and he logs in with his own password. You're not going to be able to see the password, but you'll see the length difference. So he entered with, you see that there are things like 8 characters or something. So he can log into the system. But as he can log into the system, this will be the legitimate administrator, the attacker can log in with the same user with password ghost1. Okay? So you can bet that the administrator will never notice that his weak hash version is different to his strong hash version and stuff. So basically what attacker is doing with this kind of attack is he has like a permanent backdoor for any user, so he can log in with that username. He can log in using that username with a different password. Okay, that's the first possibility and the first attack vector. So protection and countermeasures against this. There shouldn't be no reason at all why you have this value set to 3 or to 4. Okay? It is supposed to be just for test purposes. I don't know why 4 is there, but 3 is for test purposes. So you should keep monitoring that value and make sure that it doesn't never get to that, that parameter never gets that value. And you have just an additional measure, you should protect that no one can modify the user master table. Okay? But if he's already administrator, he can do anything he wants. And there is also a note, a reference to a SAP note that you may want to take a look at. So that will be the first attack vector. Now we're going to go into something more dangerous, that is the possibility of backdooring an SAP business model. Going to talk about a little of basic SAP concepts. The idea is that you as end user, once you log into the system, you are interacting with transactions. So every time that you run a transaction, you are actually running an ABAP program. Okay? ABAP is a proprietary SAP development language. So almost everything is developed in ABAP. So ABAP programs can be divided in standard programs that are the ones that are shipped by SAP, and as soon as you install the system, all those programs there have been developed by SAP. And you have custom programs that are programs developed in-house in company to customize the system and adapt it to your needs. So this kind of program, you can recognize them easily because they start with a C or with a Y. So the reality is that standards programs can be modified, and it's done sometimes, but it's strongly discouraged. Because if you do that, you pretty much lose SAP support, and SAP doesn't guarantee that a new upgrade won't override your standard program. So it makes sense. So you should not do that. Even though if you want to do that, a special procedure called SSCR will step in and will ask you for a special key. So if you want to modify a program, there will be a pop-up that says, okay, you are trying to modify this program ID, send this serial number to SAP, and they provide you a key that you type in, and then you're allowed to modify it. So this way, SAP keeps track of what you modify, and then if you have any support issue, they will tell you it's your problem now. So the idea is that ABAP programs are actually, as pretty much what's in SAP systems, is stored in the system database. So there are two tables. The first one, repo SRC, that contains the compressed source code of each ABAP program, either standard or custom programs. And the second one is repo load, that contains the ABAP is also like precompiled, so you find something similar to bytecode there. So in a typical SAP landscape, you'll find at least three systems: development system, quality assurance systems, and proactive systems. Development and changes can only be done in the development system. Okay, that's between quotes for now. The idea is that you will